Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Writing Extensions with Matt. That's me. And as usual, we got a fantastic producer sitting in the background, but today it is not James. It is John. Hello.
I'm the stand-in James, and I'm very happy to be here.
We are very happy that you are here. You've been a busy guy lately. I know.
It's the month of build. Everyone at Microsoft freaks out, and they try and do everything all at once. And so there's like 90 different things, and it's like we have to do this before this because of this, so that we can be ready for build. And so everybody's like scrambling with last-minute stuff. So
yeah, build is always kind of the crazy time of the year. It's for us in the sort of .NET Visual Studio world and all that. It's our big conference, right? So
yeah,
and we should probably just give a shout out to Build and make sure that everyone goes and registers there, because registration is open. It's free, completely free. And we're going to have some great sessions, and you can see the sessions now. You can create your own little schedule and go ahead and do that. Do you know what the URL is for that?
no.
Let
me look it up.
Microsoft.com or something?
Sure.
We should have prepared, but we didn't.
I know. I'll add that into the banner thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you involved much with any of the live stuff?
I have a couple of things that I'm working on. I don't want to give anything away, so I can't get into specifics. But it'll be good. It'll be good stuff. Yeah.
I'm not doing too much. I'm teaching a live Let's Learn thing where we go through a build or a Microsoft Learn module. So
do we know which one?
Yeah, it's building an ASP.NET Web API. So I asked a bunch of people to join me as like co-presenters and moderators, and all the top people. I was like, if one or two of these people say yes, it'll be great. Yeah. And they all said yes.
So that's cool. We don't really have anything about extensions, Visual Studio extensions at Build. And John, I don't know if you know this, but not last year. Last year was our first virtual Build conference, but the year before, so that was our last in-person Build, which was in Redmond, right? Or it was in Seattle, rather. We actually had a full day that Friday after Build was over. On the whole Friday, we invited everyone that wanted to join for a full day of extensibility content. Wow. And so we had a bunch of speakers. We had there were some. I think we even had a bunch of swag. Like I was able to get all the old kind of stuff, like vintage, I'd rather say, Visual Studio swag that was like kind of hidden away in the back. Yeah. We brought all that stuff out and gave that all away. For some reason, I think with marketing, usually they're very, you have to be the latest logo, and it has to be sort of, you have to follow guidelines or whatnot. And so we had all this old stuff that we couldn't give away, but I managed to convince them. So we had a bunch of that. And of course, extenders, usually love Visual Studio and like sort of the history of it and all that.
Yep.
So we had like a fantastic day. And we had a bunch of speakers. We had Andrew Arnott talking about threading, how to do threading properly.
Yeah.
We had other people talking about how to do a language server protocol implementation and so on. And the best part of the whole thing was when we were done, sort of around 4 p.m., I think.
Yeah.
We all went to the Commons, which is sort of that little downtown area of Microsoft campus with restaurants and stuff.
Yeah.
And we all got in and had drinks and dinner and, beer and all that sort of stuff. And it was, and we just hung out and talked about extension stuff. And it was just absolutely perfect. And
wow.
I'm so sad that we kind of couldn't replicate that virtually. Yeah. I really think that social aspect at the end was like probably the best part of the whole thing. And I can't wait till we do that again. Yeah.
I wonder though, because like we've kind of gotten this thing down with doing these sort of like short virtual conferences, and you've got a community that hangs out here. I wonder if you could do like a half-day online conference. It wouldn't be the same, right? But it could be kind of interesting. Get some other speakers on and put together like a little mini thing. I don't know.
No, we could totally do that part. We could also do like more of an open like Teams meeting. All the extenders out there, everyone watching what if we all dial into the same meeting and we do it, and it's very casual, have a beer,
Yeah.
relax, chill out, and let's just chit chat. That might be cool.
Hey, so there was a question from Kevin. I bet you get asked this kind of stuff regularly. I bet there's a regular question, but what book do you recommend on writing extensions?
Well, let me find it. I'll show you. Yeah. This one.
All right.
This is it. This is
Visual
the
Studio Extensibility Development.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really good. I helped edit it, so it's also very accurate. It's written by a Microsoft employee, and this is the perfect book. Get it on your local wherever you buy books.
All right.
And this is
Very
this
cool.
is the one to get. I wish this is the one where I wrote the foreword to this, and I think the last paragraph or the last sentence I write in there is like, this is the book I wish I had when I started writing extensions.
Wow. Okay.
And that is not, and I'm not trying to, I don't get paid for this. I'm not trying to sell you this. I'm just saying this is a really good one.
That's great. That's great.
There's not a lot of books. I remember the book that came out over 10 years ago. Kayan Nayari wrote it. Do you remember Kevin?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He was big in the .NET community back then. I actually went to see him. He's an Iranian, and he lived. He worked for Apple and other over in the U.S. He's been in the U.S. now for a long time. But back in 2009, I went. I traveled to Iran as a tourist to kind of check it out, right?
I think I remember you mentioning that before. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just talking to you before, like you and I. Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm. And he was there, and so we went out for dinner, and it was absolutely fantastic. And so that guy he wrote a book for how to extend Visual Studio 2008, I think it was, or 2005 even. Okay. So even though that was a great book too, it's kind of outdated. So this is the one that talks about the new model, and it was actually written for Visual Studio 2019. So it's very up to date. Yeah.
Okay. And that's on. Is that? Let me see. That's on Apress.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. I'll grab a link for that in the chat.
Yep.
Very cool.
Let's just take a few questions. There's an F# question there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it possible to write Visual Studio extension using F#? I have never seen it done. It can be done with .NET, any language. We only have the project templates for VB and C#. And the documentation is only for C#, if I believe. Like the samples, rather. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's anything that stops you from doing F#, but I have never seen it done.
I think I've probably asked you even this before on a previous one, but I'm just thinking constantly about source generators. Is there stuff going on with source generators for... You know what I mean? Because like F# gets me thinking about like metaprogramming and like, type providers and all this stuff. And then I jump to like source generators because there's a decent amount of like boilerplatey kind of stuff. Is there stuff going on with source generators at all for extensions?
Well, the cool thing about .NET source generators is that they run on a compiler level, right? So they work on the command line, they work from MS Build, they work from if we're talking about the same thing, and so they don't need any tooling in Visual Studio. They work on their own. The .NET compiler, and so there doesn't have to be an extensibility story for it in Visual Studio.
Okay, I was thinking more along the lines of using source generators to build extensions. Like, could a source generator create some of the code for me?
There is one thing that's very interesting actually, and that would be to generate some of the. So there is a file in extensions called the VSCT file. It's an XML file that describes buttons and menus and stuff. And it would be really nice if we could express that in C# instead of in XML, because then we can drive IntelliSense much more fluently and have a more strongly typed thing. And we could also have like our single source of truth could then be in C# instead of in XML.
Mm.
And so you can imagine a source generator that, based on that C# file, will produce the XML file, the VSCT file, that the Visual Studio V6 compiler then uses, right? So I think that would be a fantastic thing to start playing around with. I've never played with source generators, so I don't really know what the limitations are, or if this is just weird, or we should do it in another way. It might be that the old code DOM and the old like single file generator API for Visual Studio, like that's better. The thing about Visual Studio extensibility is that it kind of by de facto, you are in Visual Studio, so there's no need for tooling that also works on the command line.
Oh, right.
Right. So it would be super interesting. If someone wants to give it a go or do a prototype or something like that, anyone watching right now that are into like source generators and whatnot, it would be really fun to look at that. Absolutely.
Very cool.
So, okay. So today we don't really have news. I said that I was going to do news at the beginning of these segments here, but we don't really have a lot of news. As John was mentioning, we've been heads down preparing for build, right? Month of May is usually like that. So not a whole lot has happened. We did have a great pull request come in yesterday for the toolkit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And that's about how can we make it super easy to work with the output window. So I think we're going to have an episode. We're not going to have this show going on next week and the week after because of build. But on the other side of that, we're going to definitely look at how to work with the output window, and we can look at that. So go check out the toolkit GitHub repo, and you can see that. It's really clever. It's really clever.
We had some really important questions come in. This is a tough one here.
The answer is yes. My name is Danish only. No other countries have name Mads as a name. Also, John, I don't know if you know this, but I
did not know that.
No one. Well, here's another little tidbit. No one knows how to pronounce my name unless they are Danish. So it's always like this joke that the Scandinavian countries speak the same kind of languages and all that, but no other country is capable of pronouncing my name unless they've heard how it's said, and then they can replicate that easily. But until that moment, then the whole world, no one is able to do it.
So are you going to give it away? Are you going to tell us, or is it just...
Are you ready? Okay, this is how you pronounce my name. By the way, I pronounce my name Mads, which is wrong, but that's how I do it because it doesn't matter to me. When I go to Starbucks and order coffee and they ask my name, I say Max because I don't need to discuss with them or talk. It doesn't matter. But that way my mom would say my name, which is the real way to say it, is Mess.
Oh, like
no D sound at all. Mess. Yeah.
All right. I would have never guessed.
But I've worked in Germany for a while, for over a couple of years, like back and forth, and they were fully capable of saying. Everyone is capable, I think, of saying that, right? Mess. But as soon as they saw it in writing that there was a D in there, from that moment on, Mads.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I introduce myself, and yeah, it's fine. It doesn't bother me.
The one other thing that always comes to mind whenever I think of Danish is counting. The number system is creative.
The number system is crazy. There's a good reason for it for old days, but in English you say 22, right? So you need to know the word 20, 30, 40, but it's like 410, 50, 510. It's easy, right?
Yeah.
In Danish, let's see if I get this right. It's not in tens, it's in 20s. So you would say, so what is this? So 60 is basically 3 10s. No, sorry, 3 20s.
Okay.
But then 50, you're basically saying half 3 20s. So that's so if it's 55, you say half 3 20s 5. It's
some of the numbers around like 95 or something like that. I've seen people describe it, and it's like that's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's the explanation. This is better when I did. Yeah. This is 50, right? Half to 320s from 220s.
We need an extension for that. Just
Oh no. Oh no. I don't think any math library in the world can handle that.
Oh man. Okay, well, one other question that came in that is probably a lot more on topic. I think somebody's asking something about a text buffer. And I think you had said something about a text buffer for today. Is that?
Can I work with a text buffer from an external app using COM? So the COM part, I don't know this, but the answer is yes. You can access from another app, from your own exe. Let's say you're building a Windows Forms app or console app, whatever. You can talk to Visual Studio, which runs in a different process. And you can automate Visual Studio, and you do that through the DTE.
Okay. Is that a COM server?
So that might be COM. I don't actually know the technology that makes that work, but I just know that you do it, and we do it internally, because a lot of the way we write tests and we automate our functional and integration tests on the Visual Studio, the various Visual Studio teams, sometimes they do that. And I don't know if it's documented, but I think there's blog posts or something like that out there about it. So check out. So if you care about it, go Google it. How to use the DTE to automate the dev exe process. It's totally possible.
Wow.
You know.
That is cool.
What's the DTE?
Okay. Yeah, that's always a good one.
The DT is where's Jan? Is he here? I haven't seen him. He was the one, I think, that came up with what it actually stands for. It stands for,
isn't it like design? I always thought it was like design time environment or something like that.
That's it. Let's go with that. So the full name is actually ENV DTE. So ENV stands for environment. So environment, design, time. What was the thing?
I thought it was environment, but that doesn't make sense.
Okay, but it's a NuGet package. You just install a NuGet package. I'll show it here in a second.
Okay.
So it's basically just an API. Think of it as an API that you can use, and you can use that from outside Visual Studio somehow. So, okay.
Okay. I'm looking up to see if the docs tell me. They'll probably. No, it doesn't. It's not obvious.
All right.
But it is a thing.
And speaking of COM, we do have some changes in Visual Studio 2022, and right now the various different COM APIs or interfaces, they're all spread out in different assemblies all over. And what they're doing now is, like, because they had to do some cleanup, they're actually putting them all together in one single assembly. So now we're only going to have one interrupt assembly.
Wow. Which
is fantastic. So they're called PIAs, right? Private interrupt assemblies. There's just going to be one that's going to hold them all. And I think, but I don't know, they haven't published it yet on NuGet. I think even the DTE is going to be in there because it has COM under the hood.
Yeah.
So maybe that answers the original question, was how can we access it from outside using COM? ? Yeah, maybe that is what you do under the hood if you use the DTE to automate Visual Studio from a separate process. So, yeah.
It seems like Kevin's got a pretty specific thing. He's trying to get the text buffer, and that seems, I don't know.
Oh, you cannot get the text buffer object. Okay. I do not have a link. Sorry. Get the text. You'll have to get a hold of. I'll show you some things, and I wonder if it's possible to cast one type to another. The thing is that the DTE was written so long ago that those sort of native COM APIs that it deals with do not match the new text buffer and WPF concepts. But oftentimes we can take an underlying object and cast between the various different ones. And so let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at that too. I don't know. I would just be guessing, but I could show you what I mean. Yeah. All right. So let's build an extension.
All right.
That's why we're here, right? So and as usual, I have the Extensibility Essentials installed, and I'm gonna grab this project template here called V6 Project with a command, right? And it says community. John, I don't know if you know this, but this project template here, there's a bunch of project templates, but the ones that has community in parentheses come from the community template pack that is part of the Extensibility Essentials.
Oh, that is cool.
So we're going to create.
I would like to share the link. Hopefully, is this the right one here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trying to do the producer thing.
Thank you. James actually made that. He made that AKAMS link while we were on the air. So what should we call this? We're going to call this. Let's call this buffer fun. Buffer fun. Having fun with text buffers, right? So let's create this, and we're getting a nice extension here. So let's take a look at what we got. We got our VSCT file. This was the XML file I was talking about, John. And it has a button that it puts into a group that is placed in the tools menu up here. So this button is going to live somewhere up here in the tools menu. Okay, so there's a command, and that command is called my command. Okay. Well, what do you have here? My command. Wonderful. So, John, do you remember what it looked like before the toolkit when we wanted to create a command?
So I'm going to be honest, not really, but I think I think there were a lot of GUIDs in there, right? There was
right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there was one. There was at least one.
One is too many for me most of the time.
But it was like 150 lines of code. This is what it looks. But this is what a command looks like now.
Wow.
It is just cleaned up significantly, right? The concept count here is so much lower, and you get probably 95% of the capabilities using this way of doing it. So instead of just that, so we're just inheriting from a base command instead of not inheriting from anything. So that's how we encapsulate all that sort of stuff. So wonderful, wonderful stuff. And by default here in the template is that it just pops up as, a text box, show message, right? Okay. Not that interesting, but, not that bad either, I guess. This is kind of what the original template did for when you added a command. It just showed a message box. But that's not what we want to do here. What we want to do here is let's just inject something into the text buffer when this command is invoked. Should we do that? So how do we get the editor instance or document? Like, I'm just going to pretend I'm new here, right? And so I don't necessarily know what the things are called, but I know that things hang off of the VS object, VS dot. And there's something called editor. That sounds right. Dot. Okay, what do we got here? Get active text document, native text view, or WPF text view. I'm guessing get active text document. That seems right to me. Okay. And so let's create that var doc equals this. Oh, but this is async, so this needs to be awaited, which means I need async up there. Okay. So what hangs off of doc? Well, a lot of different things. So for the question we had earlier, the DTE, well, check this out, env DTE. Okay, so these are kind of things that belong in the DTE, which is sort of that NuGet package that has sort of an API that is meant for easy use while it does sort of the heavy lifting for you. And so we got different things. So what is it that I want? I want to inject something into it. How do I inject things into the text buffer? So I got my text document. I can create an edit point. Okay. Create edit point. Dot. And I just say insert. Aha. Insert text. Okay, I'm going to insert a new GUID. Well, GUID, it's called new GUID like this, right? It probably wants a using statement, I'm guessing. And it probably needs a string, something like this. Create edit point. And this one wants to say, hey, make sure you switch to the main thread once you do this. Okay, I will do that. So hang on. What are we doing now? Are we env DTE text document? Let's just put that up there. So this is almost too easy. Hang on. Well, I shouldn't have said that. Now I bias the audience here. What does this look like to you from like a ease of use perspective? Does this look like that this is kind of something you can understand, or is it kind of weird? The question to the audience, and you too, John.
Yeah.
Do I have to close this? Close, dispose, this edit point. Just wondering if I'm doing something wrong. Change case. Okay, I can do all sorts of things here. Copy paste. I really have a lot of delete white. I have a lot of methods here I can call, huh?
Now, I think new GUID, I think you actually have to call something on the GUID class to generate the GUID, don't you?
Oh, you're thinking of oh, really? New GUID, does that create an empty GUID?
I think it might.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got someone in the chat that agrees.
Okay. Okay. So like this. Let's give our command here, our button, let's give it a shortcut. So it's called, what's it called? Buffer fun is the GUID. The ID is my command. The editor is something about 97. And then, okay, what should the shortcut be? Tools, options, keyboard. What's available? Control Shift 7. No. What is this? View forward browse context. But what about the editor scope? That is the question. C# editor. Isn't there one just called editor? I think there's a code editor. No. Okay, never mind. Let's find another one. I think the ones with Alt are usually always good. Control Alt 5. No. Control Alt. That one. Okay, Control Alt that one. Open bracket. That's the Control Alt open bracket. So key is that one. Oh, that one. And the modifier is Control Alt. There is no key 2 or mod 2. There we go. We're going to close this off. Now, what is this complaining about? The mod is invalid. I don't think so. It probably just needs to be capitalized. Yeah. Key, it's invalid according to its data type. The value is not. It has to be a specific one. Oh, what is that? Brace? Divide. You know what? I'm just gonna not do this right now. Let's just run this. You know, I'm out of coffee now. So they got some questions here. Guess it would be nice to insert at the current selection. Oh yeah, that was a glaring omission by me here. So now it will probably fail if I call it. Okay, because there is no current text buff. We didn't check for null. So let me just, what is this? This is from last week. This is the iJames interface. Okay. So tools. Oh dear. It's one of these. Is it that one? No. Okay, let's rename this thing.
That is a feature of the MADS edition.
Yeah.
The MADS Visual Studio SKU. There you go.
Insert good. Let's get another. What's a good symbol? Is there a good symbol? I don't think so. Welcome user guide. That is a good one. Let's do that one. It just screams good. So I forgot to check for null, right? So we need to say, basically what we need to say, I guess, is if dog is not null, then do this. Oh. Where'd it go? There it is. So we open iJames. And then we say, which was tools, insert good, and boom. Now, was that at the selection? Hang on. What if I put my cursor down here? And now we say tools, insert good. No, it always does it at position 0. Okay. Let's just see what happens if I don't have a file open. So now it should break, right? Because I didn't add that check for null until after so now it should just crash. It didn't crash. So why didn't it crash? Aha, the error handler takes over. So this is, John, you're gonna love this. So whenever there's an exception that the toolkit knows how to handle, it will throw it out in the output window under a new output window pane called extensions.
Oh, nice.
And look at this. It even tells you exactly where. Line 16, right? So imagine that this happened to an extent. Let's say I wrote an extension that you were the user of, and something happened. You could actually see here. And because by default, all extensions include the PDB file, the symbols file in the v6 by default. So if it's in there, if the author left it in there, you could actually see exactly on what line, on which file that produced this error. And so you could just open the issue with me on my GitHub repo or whatever, say, hey, this is it, fix it.
That is nice.
So that makes it so much easier for me to fix, right? And more likely for you to have a working extensions shortly thereafter.
So it's how possible is it now through an extension to like crash Visual Studio? Is it still pretty likely, or is it pretty, I mean, like, no, I know there's ways if you intentionally wanted to, but like for the average extensibility author, like, are most of them going to get caught in this sort of way?
No. You can crash Visual Studio, no problem. But what we're trying to do with the toolkit is that if you're using the toolkit, instead of using sort of the regular API directly, if you're using the toolkit classes and helpers and all that sort of stuff, we try to make it such that, well, it doesn't crash. And also things are handled in a nice way. And best practices are followed so that it's more unlikely to begin with to have any hangs or crashes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we got, Shmuley's coming in. Hello. Long time no see. This is many years ago. Wow. All right. Old MVP, Microsoft MVP, .NET MVP, I believe. Maybe even ASP.NET MVP, but also an extender. Okay, so we need to now insert this at the cursor location. So let's create the edit like this. Okay, so we create the edit point, and it needs to take a text point. Okay, so let's find the text point. So let's do doc. That was something called selection. Text selection. Is there like a start or start a line? We need anchor point. Anchor point. There we go. That's a virtual point. Does that have a? Because I need a what? I need a text point. Was it text point? What does this take? Text point. Well, maybe an anchor point is a text point. Like maybe it's like inherited or whatever. Let's try it. Haha. Really? I feel like that was too easy. It might be.
I did some automation stuff a long time ago. Anchor point sounds familiar. That sounds about right.
Like, were you doing macros or extensions?
So I was doing automation of like Word documents and stuff. But
oh yeah, it was still using VBA, right? So it was using macro language behind the scenes.
Yeah, but I mean, COM and VBA, there's like, I don't know. It seems like similar sort of design principles.
Yeah, I'm sure that the Visual Studio probably took a lot of inspiration from Office.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we put the caret here and we execute this again. Did you see that, John?
This is the place where we should have some like music for success like that.
Oh, hang on. I got something. I got something. Here we go. And if this is money, right? Ka-ching! I don't think this one does anything else that's oh, maybe this one. Oh no, that's a laughter. Okay.
I tried to create a banner for you, but it's kind of a lame emoji.
Let me see. Oh.
I'll work on it.
All right. Oh, that's kind of good. What about I guess not. Oh, here, if it was a good idea, we can do this one. Okay. So there is still. Why is did it insert this one up here? Or was that from last time? Maybe that was from last time. So let's do var something equals. Good. Boom. Let's say it works. So what else can we do here with the text buffer? I think we can do some cool stuff. This is surprising. So I will say, I haven't been using the toolkit myself for all the aspects of the toolkit, and I'm like just really happy to see that I can do this in such an easy way. This is like I can now, instead of like trying to figure out how to work the APIs, I feel like with this sort of stuff, I can concentrate more on what is it that I want Visual Studio to do for me, right? How do I want to automate things? Let's comment this out. Let's do this in a different way. This is the old way, right? This is the DTE. This is sort of the DTE API. It's the old version, if you will. The new WPF version looks a little different. Let's take a look at how we do the same thing using the new API. And what would be interesting we can now compare them and say, okay, has the new API made it easier or not? And by new, I mean Visual Studio 2010. Okay, so not new, but newer. Okay, so let's do another one. Let's do, on this one, we want a text view. So view, we want to say await vs.editor. Get current WPF text view async. Okay, so already here, if I put on, the new B glasses, I'm looking like, what the hell is a WPF text view, right? So I'm wondering if we should rename this particular function to maybe just text view, get current text view, or something like that. So in here, if I want to write something to inside the text buffer, I would do something like this. We can do, we're going to do a using statement. We're going to create another edit. So we're going to do a view.text. So look at the view here. It has a bunch of stuff, right? Selection, visual element. It has, this is a WPF thing. So you have all the WPF type of stuff in here too, right? Really cool. So you can really, really do some awesome things and manipulate stuff here. Notice how we got IntelliCode here, all the stars up at the top here. John, let's do a little story time.
Oh, I'm on it.
So
wait. I'm searching. Okay. Story time.
All right. Excellent. So, IntelliCode came out, and this is like probably a couple of years ago. And the idea of IntelliCode was, and still is, to have Visual Studio be kind of one step ahead of you by thinking, okay, this is probably what you want. This is probably what your next move is going to be. And then present that to you in a way that's sort of easy to consume without being annoying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is actually a hard balance to strike. But that's topic for another day. And the first feature that was included in IntelliCode was this notion of bringing the most used APIs based on the context that we're currently in, up to the top of the completion list. Mm-hmm. So that's what these stars mean right here. And it's actually context aware. So if I was in an if statement, it would have been different. And the way it works is that they unleashed machine learning algorithms on a bunch of GitHub repositories and also internal Microsoft repositories from different teams and whatnot, to train the model to say, what is it that people are using in various contexts? And I noticed that there was nothing for the Visual Studio SDK. There was nothing for extenders, simply because they hadn't indexed any repos with extensibility stuff Yep. And so that made sense, right? And so I started collecting a whole list of repos, like hundreds. And I gave him a list and say, hey, can we spiff up the extensibility story here a little bit? Because it's really hard to know what extensibility APIs I should use. And if I had these stars, it could guide me a little bit. Mm-hmm. We know that the extensibility APIs are not that great, right? Or they're hard to learn, let's say. And so this would be something that would be helpful. So they said, yeah, that's a good idea. And so they started doing that. And at the same time, I was able to do it so that when you install the extensibility workload in the Visual Studio installer, it also included IntelliCode, because it's still an optional component to this day, but it's now on by default if you install the extensibility workload. And so that's actually how this came in. It was kind of just a thought and some quick handiwork. And I'm really happy that we have it here. So that was the story of that. Okay.
That is a good story. And that's the kind of things that like Microsoft PMs do constantly, is like a lot of it is like good suggestions from community or paying attention to community. But there's just so many things where like you and I, people just be like, hey, why don't we hook up this? Or why doesn't this have a way to load this sort of file or whatever it is? And just go and find the right person to bug. And sometimes it takes 6 months or a year or whatever, but it gets done. It's cool when that happens.
Right. Sometimes it's not more organized than that, right?
Yeah. that IntelliCode though, I really love it for APIs that aren't intuitive to navigate. I use it a lot for like file streams and like loading files and things. And the APIs have improved over time, but it's that whole kind of thing where it's boom, it's the top of the list. And it just makes it so much easier.
Yeah, right. So here's what I want to do. Let's talk about what a text view is. A text view is the entirety of what goes on inside a document tab here. So that includes the line numbers. It includes, of course, all the the text area right here, the margins, the zoom thing down here, the scroll bars. That is part of the text view. Okay. The text view has a bunch of things on it. It has a caret. That's the cursor that's blinking right now. It's got a selection, right? It's got these things that are sort of, if you think from an abstraction perspective, they have to do with the visual representation of the document here. But when it comes to the text itself, it doesn't really know much about it. For that, it has something called a text buffer. And the text buffer is basically the text only. So if I do Control A to select everything, it's basically everything now selected. That is the text buffer. Okay. And so the text buffer knows everything there is to know about the text, the line breaks, all this sort of stuff. And so I'm going to create an edit like that. Okay. So now let's let's do this here stuff. Let's just clean these up. So this is kind of similar, right? The way that I can go and do this. Actually, I don't have to do this. So let's do this in a second. Let's do the simple one first. View.textBuffer.insert. And here we go. So what's the position? We need to find the position, and we're going to give it GUID. GUID. New GUID string. There we go. And then let's do var position equals, so view, we want it at the caret dot position. There we go. And this position might be, that's a caret position. We want the actual position. So position, buffer position, virtual buffer position. Let's do buffer position dot position. That's an integer. Whoa. Right. And they want an integer. Sometimes these snapshot points or whatever can also be converted to integers. So it might work if I do this. Let's see. Yeah, that worked too. Isn't that funny? It says it wants an integer. There's no overloads here, yet it takes a snapshot point. So why? I'm just curious. Why does snapshot point? Because it's an I comparable. So in here it can whatever. So it can convert itself to an integer. Okay. So that is now the easiest way of doing. Oh, I did Control F6. What did that do? I wanted to hit Control F5. Control F6. Just move. What does Control F6 do? Okay, I'm going to look it up. If anyone wants to guess, now it's the time. In the comments, Control F6. Control F6. Window.next document window. Okay, so it just cycles through. How is that different from Control Tab? Oh, because it doesn't go back and forth. It just always goes next, next, next. So is that Control F7 for previous? No. Control F4? Yeah, I don't know. Anyway. So this should now do the exact same thing. And I'll show you why sometimes it's okay to do this, but why I usually don't. So let's get iJames open and place our caret in the desired position right there. Tools, insert GUID, boom. So now we have the second implementation that does the exact same thing. And they seem to work, right? That's nice. Okay, so here's what I want to do instead. I want to create an edit. And does this take a position? Editor options. Or what is it? View.selection. Create an edit. Why can't? Okay, so then we say edit.insert position. Oh, and they wanted this thing. Okay, so that's kind of the same thing, but that seems like an overhead. Why would I want to do this, right? What's the purpose of this? Also, I have to do this apply. Okay, so why all this stuff? Well, because what if I want to do more than one edit? Then here I can do them sort of in an isolated, like a atomic unit, that I can then apply in a single go and it won't be inserted. Nothing will change in the text buffer until I hit the apply right here. Okay, so I can do all these things. And then we do a using statement, so we make sure that we actually close down this stuff. I kind of like this. It's nice, you know. Could you just do this instead? You totally could, and nothing bad would happen. But think about it: if you want to do multiple things, like multiple insertions or multiple edits, then group them together. It's probably better. You're better off doing that.
When you mention multiple insertions or edits, how does this work with something like block select? You know what I mean? Where you can do the like, what is it, Alt Shift or whatever?
Just hit down Alt.
Yeah. So if you like select an entire column and do and insert a GUID, is it going to insert that same GUID in each line?
It's gonna no. I'll show you. Because notice what it does. The position is that it gets the caret position. So there is only one caret, but you know, we do have multi-caret support.
Yeah.
So let's try that, but that's a different API. So okay, so let me do a block select. I'm just gonna block select this. So what's gonna happen? Just
insert. Yeah.
Where was the caret, right?
Okay.
Caret was, so if I now do it from this side, so now the caret is up top. The thing that blinks is up there. So now if I do it, it inserts it up there.
Got it. Okay.
So you could argue, hey, this is actually not a good implementation. It should be that if I have a selection, it should override whatever is that selection instead of inserting it like that. I would agree. I'd agree with you, John. So
sorry, my code reviews sometimes are a little harsh.
So in that case, we want to replace, right? What is that we want to replace? Our span. Okay, so now we're dealing with a span. Now let's take a look at what a span is, by the way. A span is basically just a starting point and a length. So if I write span, here we go, and we take a look at what that is. It is a very, very simple data structure. It has a start and a length. When it has, those are the only two things it's got. That means that it can calculate what the end is and whether or not it's empty. Okay, and then there's a bunch of other things. So we can say, okay, so what is the span? That is the selection, right? So if we say, we no longer need a position. What we need is a span. So what is the selection? The selection is view.selection. Selected spans. So now we get into this whole thing about like how many do we have, right? Contains count 1. So we can say there's always at least one selection. Like it might be empty, but this is it. So this is span. So now we can say span. Okay. So that's a snapshot span, but a snapshot span probably inherits from span, doesn't it? No. But for some reason it's also, okay, yeah. So it's a struct. So it has the same layout probably as span or something. Does this make sense so far? I think this is, what's cool here is that API, that WPF API, like when we're using the get current WPF text view, the APIs are so much bigger. We get so many more options, which is also like hard, right? Because which one is then the right one? IntelliCode can only help us so far, or that far, but let's see here. If we're getting the desired behavior.
So question here, Stefan asking, how do you know, like, what if it's empty? Is there always going to be a selected span?
Yeah. Let's test it first. I think there is. Okay, so that worked. It just changed. I'm going to undo. Oh, speaking of undo, we're gonna look at that too. So now I just put my cursor somewhere, right? I'm not gonna, nothing is selected. And so it's selected right there. So there's always a selection. But in this case, the selection length is 0.
What about if you just open a file up and don't click anywhere in it? Is there always a selection?
I believe so. Because by default, when I open a file, it takes focus and that places the caret there.
Okay.
But what if this window was, so now Solution Explorer window is the one that's active.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a cursor at all over here. So let's try it. Boom, right there.
Cool.
So the selection is still, the caret is still there.
Okay.
So let's move it. Let's move it down here, then activate Solution Explorer, and then do it again. Yeah, so it still knows where the cursor is, even though you don't see the blinker going. Okay, I'm going to undo that. That's undo everything. I'm going to insert a GUID just right here. And I can now undo things, right? Now let's look in the undo buffer. It said text buffer change. That is the generic thing when it doesn't know what to do. So if I copy, if I cut and I paste down here, let's look at the undo buffer now. See here?
Yep.
Wouldn't it be nice if we can like provide information of, instead of saying text buffer change, we say inserted GUID?
Sure.
The answer is yes. That would be great. And we always want to do that. It's being a nice citizen that we do that. So even though it's like, yeah, we don't, why bother, right? Why bother? It's like, yeah, just do it for completeness. Do it for, you know, the pride of doing a full implementation. So what we can do is that we need to get the DTE. Do we have to? We don't have to. So there is a service. We don't have that at the, what is that service? That would be under, it would be under editor, I think, or would it be under shell? I don't know if I added this to, I forgot to add it to the toolkit. So let's see if we can use it. Let's use the DTE. That's the one I know how to do. So let's include a, so let's do var DTE equals vs.get DTE async. Now we got the DTE. Oh, I forgot to await it. The DTE2, which is sort of the newest version of the DTE. There we go. And so now I can do this. I can say DTE.undo context.open. And we can say inserted GUID. And then after the fact, we can say DTE.undo context.close. There we go. So what's interesting about this, what I really should do is put in a try finally, just in case that any of this throws an exception, then I make sure that I close. You always want to close the undo buffer. So I'm actually going to do that. I'm not going to show you how to do this because it has severe consequences if we don't do this right. Here.
So that's the severe consequences, just keeping that undo context open.
Yes,
time.
We basically ruin it for everyone else.
Okay.
So what happens is that if an undo context is open, let's say I throw an exception somewhere in here, and it now stays open. The next time anyone, including Visual Studio's own features, want to do something and they want to open an undo context to paste or copy or whatever, Visual Studio will throw an error that says an undo context is already open. And it's a visible one that you're going to see. So that's just, so we don't want to do that. So we always want to do it this way. Back in the Web Essentials days, we actually had a wrapper for the undo context. Oh, that's a good idea. I'm going to write that down. So that was an idisposable wrapper for undo context. because then that would allow me to not do try catch, but basically I could say using. I could wrap things in a using like this. So it would be something like this. This is kind of what it would look like. And then I could just have my end using right there. And why is it not inserting anything? There we go. Which is much smoother. So this is what I'm going to do.
You can also do, which I always find weird, but you can take out that one break. You can stack your usings, right?
Yeah, I kind of
I
like
always felt that looked weird, but it.
I like it. I like it. So DTE dot, we can't do that because this does not support. It's not an iDisposable. So, so that was what that helper class did that we had in Web Essentials back in the day.
Okay. Question a while back, but I think this is interesting. I think I'm interpreting this as just popping up in the IntelliSense menu. How do you pop up inspection of span so fast? Or no, this was the going to go to reference, right?
Oh, so, yeah. So if you, F12 goes to, are you sure you want to agree to this? Yes. It navigates to definition, go to definition, and it opens up in a preview tab right here. What I did was, instead of hitting F12, go to definition, I hit Alt F12. It takes you to the exact same place, but it does it inline in the editor. I'm not going anywhere.
Yep.
And so if you right click, you can actually see that it's listed. So peak definition is called Alt F12. Peak definition.
Cool.
I kind of prefer that. Just, yeah, I really do.
Most Same. It allows you to, like, I don't want to totally lose my context. I just want to take a quick look at it. So, yeah.
All right. So what's really cool about this undo context is, say we don't really need it. If we're just doing what I'm doing here, okay, we don't really need it, right? Because all it does is that it allows us to write that custom text up in the undo list. But if we were doing multiple things, if we were doing multiple edits, not just a single text edit that we apply in one go, but we have multiple things that we're doing. Maybe we call out to different methods that each have their edit point or whatever. Then they will all be grouped in the same undo stack, and that means that that the undo buffer will only have one item that you can undo all those actions in one swoop. But it allows you to control multiple, because it could be that you would have, oh, I actually do want to have 2 entries in there. And so an example of that would be if you paste some code into the editor, you want the paste command itself to exist in the undo, right? But then oftentimes if there's a setting that says, hey, automatically format on paste, then you want that as a separate undo item, such that you can undo just the formatting instead of the entire thing. And so then you just create multiple undo contexts. And so that'll give you that sort of granularity, which is nice. And so Trent has a question here. What controls the grouping? That is basically the undo context right here. This is your grouping. So you do one here, then you do another one down here where you do DT.undo context.open. You just open another one. Right? And you close it again. And so now you do your other edits right here. And now you'll have 2 entries in the undo. If we didn't do any of this, if we kept doing this original one up here where we just do one, and let's say we want to do another one here. So now we're doing 2, we're doing the exact same thing twice here. That will now be 2 separate items in the undo buffer, both called, what was it, text buffer change, right? That would not be very helpful. So if we could still do sort of this old school way, if we just put it in here inside the undo buffer, group them together, and we're good to go. I hope that makes sense. Are we having any other questions coming in, John? I mean, do you accept? What about it? Do you accept for decompile? What was the question? Oh yeah, make that dialogue stop coming up. I hate it so much. I know, right? What does it even say? Is it something about like you're looking at code under a certain license and you have to accept that license? Is that what it is? That's super annoying. Also, it should just remember it such that we don't have to like I've already accepted it multiple times. Why does it keep asking me? It doesn't ask me every time. Is it per session, or is it until I update Visual Studio the next time? Like it remembers it until I take the next update to Visual Studio. When does that happen, John? Do you know? Because I think it's with all the .NET stuff, isn't it? I'm just going to write down here. Open bug on accepting the F12 to .NET assembly. It's a disassembly, really, isn't it?
Yeah. So I can understand why, like, legally some companies would require that, but it would be nice to be able to say, like, remember my thing. Like, because I remember, like, long ago, Xamarin wouldn't look at Microsoft decompiled code. Like, if you were applying for a job, they would, like, ask if you had looked at decompiled .NET code. Because, you know what I mean? Because you have to, different things are incompatible or whatever. So I get that, but it would be nice to be able to just say like this, like I've accepted this license or whatever.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Here's a question. I'm not sure I understand it, but I'm sure you will. Maybe. Why can't multi-caret support let me copy and paste text in the caret location like VS Code does? But it does, doesn't it? You can copy and paste to.
Let's copy something. I'm going to copy the word await. Just going to copy that. Okay, so let's do multi-caret. So is that Control Alt? No, Shift Alt. No, it's not just Alt click. It's Control Alt click. Yeah, here we go. So I'm now doing multiple. I have multiple cursors right now, right?
Oh my goodness!
And so if I paste Control V,
yeah,
it pastes it in all the places.
Yep.
So did that answer the question?
I think it did. It answered my interpretation of the question.
Well, hang on. The thing we did before, okay, now I understand the question. The reason for why I didn't do that before was, before we did this, we did what's called a block selection. Oh. Now if I do Control V, oh, that worked too.
So the follow-up here is you will copy well in multi-caret, not before if.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. So that might not work. Let's take span, view, open, and edit. And then I'll go ahead. They're all 4 letters, right? And then copy. And then paste. Whoa. Yeah. Whatever that wasn't the right thing.
I don't know what happened there.
Yeah. You know, who asked that question? There's a bunch of suggestion up on developercommunity.visualstudio.com. Go to developercommunity.visualstudio.com. Just search for multi-caret, and you'll see a bunch of stuff. Vote on them.
Yeah, he said it's Alberto. He said that was it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, multi-caret's one of those things where I don't use it that much, but when I do, I love it. Like I've been writing these MS Learn modules and editing Markdown a bunch lately, and things like indenting a bunch of code in Markdown. It has to be spaces. You can't use tabs, you know, and be able to just block select and indent a block. It's like save so much time.
Right.
That's nice.
So there was another question about like selecting lines.
Let me see. I'm looking.
Okay, while you're looking for that question, let me ask the audience a question. The concept of lines, is that something that the text view or the text buffer would know about? Or both? Or neither, I guess. This is where it gets tricky. Does the text buffer know about lines, John? Do you know?
Does the text buffer know about lines? I don't I don't know. I mean, I guess it could figure it out, but I'm going to guess no.
That's my guess too. That's my guess too, because it knows about positions. It doesn't know that a carriage return character, like a \r, \n, those type of characters, it just sees that as a character.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a view, it's a visual representation that it goes to a new line, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's, and the whatever is visual, that's kind of controlled by the view. But let's take a look. So if I go in here and we say view, view.text buffer. Hello. Oh, I had multi-edit or multi-caret going for me here. That was the problem. Okay. View.text buffer line. See, there's nothing that matches the word line. What about current snapshot? So current snapshot have the idea of lines. Okay.
Interesting.
So the text buffer itself does not know that, but a snapshot does.
It seems like something that, I mean, you could layer intelligence on it to parse it out, basically, right? You could say, go find how many lines there are or whatever.
Right. So you can say, get the whole line from line number, what's it, line 45 or whatever was the. So let's just do let's do get line 1. So that would result in a text view line or something. No, not text view line. text snapshot line. Okay. text snapshot line. And then we could say, okay, let's just duplicate this. So this would be line 1 and then line 2, right? And so select lines 1 through 3. Let's do something else. 2 through 4. So now to control selection, that is not a text buffer thing. That's a view thing. So select. So I can now select like this. It needs a snapshot span. Okay, do we have a snapshot span? What else? What is the overload? Or virtual snapshot point? Okay. So snapshot. This is a snapshot line. Does that have a span of line? No, it doesn't have a concept of a span. Nope. Actually, it has an extend, I believe. Is that right? Extend, which is a snapshot span. Okay, but I don't want the snapshot span of line 2. I want to create a new snapshot span that starts with the beginning of line 2 and ends at the end of line 4, right? For me to select the whole thing. So I'm going to create a new span. So let's do snapshot span, SS here. So snapshot span equals new snapshot span. We need to give it a snapshot. Let's see here, snapshot. And we're just going to use view.textBuffer.current snapshot. And then so it takes a start and a length, I believe. Start and a length, but I actually have a start and an end. So I'm going to create a span. So var, let's just call it extend.
This is interesting from the Boxy Bear saying kind of a shame it's a method and not an indexer, so you could use ranges. Those ranges
actually I can. I take that back. Span.fromBounds.
Ah, nice.
Yeah. So I can say line 1 start, then line 2 end. And then we can say, do we want to include the line break or not? Yes, I want to like that. There we go. So now we can select our, what is this complete? Oh, we want it reversed. What does reversed mean? Reversed means this. So if I select these lines here, okay, if I were to reverse this, you see now my caret point is down here. If I were to reverse that, I would start down here, go up there. Boom. So that's what reverse means. But in this case, I don't care. So I want to select these lines. And then here's span. I'm going to now do, and that's a snapshot span. So I'm going to do and then we're going to insert into that span. So insert into, that was SS. Okay. So what are we going to do now? We're going to select, we're going to make a selection. We don't actually have to make a selection at all. This is completely irrelevant. But I could do other things. Let's say I want to, what I want to do, I want to trigger something on paste, because there's format on paste I get for free in some languages, right? So I could instead, I could do the selection here. I could say view dot, I don't know if there is a copy command. It might not be, but that doesn't matter. There's a get text somewhere. Text. Here. Text. Buffer, current snapshot, get text. And it takes a span, which is my SS. Oh, so I should just say ss.get text, right? And so now I could just say, okay, now I have text, and I'm going to use the clipboard. And we can just use the clipboard. Isn't that a that should just be a Windows Forms. Why doesn't it suggest me to install to? Oh, here we go. Oh, or no, WPF clipboard dot set text, right? Now I could go in here and do it this way. Actually, I shouldn't do it that way. What I should do is I should do my GUID.new GUID toString. There we go. And then I can go in here and say, okay, clipboard dot paste. No, I want instead say DTE commands, or I can say DTE.execute command. Boom. Okay, so what did I do here? I'm basically saying, let's say I do this first. I'll move this up just so that conceptually we can see what's going on. I'm going to create a new GUID. I'm going to put it in my clipboard. Then I'm going to select some text, and then I'm going to paste it. So if there was automatic formatting on paste if we're doing C#, which I think there is, I don't know if it's on by default, then we get that added benefit of that, so we can kind of piggyback onto other functionality. So Rolando asks, what does this extension do? We're kind of just playing around with the APIs, but it basically inserts a new GUID into the text buffer, and in various different ways. So now I'm not even going to make a selection, right? Because the selection should automatically happen, line 2 through 4. And so we should see those lines being replaced by a GUID. And since line 4, so basically this is, and I included the line break. So what does that mean? Does that mean that the GUID will be right before using? Maybe. Wonderful. Nothing happened. So 2 through 4. Okay, so first of all, it's a zero-based index. So you took 3 through 5 instead of 2 through 4. So why didn't this work? Execute command paste. Set audio, set data, set text. I mean, it can be different. This is it. What if I use, what does flush mean? Permanently adds the data that is on the clipboard so that it's available at, oh. No, that's not what I want. Okay, well, why, I'm confused. Why did this not work? Yeah, I could do an edit. No. I don't think so. No, edit, no, because that's, pasting is, like it's an insertion. So the text buffer only knows about the insertion. What could this be? I mean, why doesn't I call the paste command? Did it say that it was not available in that context? Let's do it again. It did not. What if I paste? So now I just hit Control V. Let's see here. And I'm on the main thread because I did do that part. Is it because it's so fast it didn't? Oh, hang on. Is it doing some stuff down here? Is it because of that? I don't know. Doing weird stuff. And oh, you know what? It's because of this, I think. The command is wrong. So we can always find the commands. If we go to, I can never find it. Command window. My search is always broken for some reason. Anyway, the command window. And Command Explorer works fine too, but I want to, okay. Oh, it was up top. It was at the very top. This is built into Visual Studio, the command window here. So now I can say edit dot paste. Yes, that's the name of the command. Edit dot paste. Here we go. It's not available because I'm sort of in this view here. Okay. So let's make sure that we do, so it's 1 through 3, right? So because it's 0 index, so the first line number is 0. I believe that's different. So this is on the snapshot span here, or the snapshot, iText snapshot. And I think if we go to view.lines, text view lines, blah, blah, then that is probably not that's probably 1 indexed or something like that. I think I remember that there's a difference there. But that's easy to figure out, right? Just something to be aware of.
Wow. This is cool.
What's going
on? One thing I wanted to make sure that we got to. So Kevin asked patiently a while ago, and he's been blocked on this thing for a while. So you had shown previously, let me bring up his specific question, but it was about the that DTE command that you showed. And he was like, what was the magic thing? Now I'm going to look at the specific. Here it is.
Oh, let's see here. What is it? Okay, before the video is made.
Was this the thing that you did in your first implementation?
No, that was the thing we talked about before we kind of dove into this, which was, yeah, it was about getting text buffer from the DTE, and you only have the DTE. Well, that is a good question. Let me try to execute this first.
Okay.
Boom. That worked.
There you go. Wow.
So I had the wrong.
This extension is going to double my productivity.
You know, this extension, I already have it, you know.
Of course you do.
There it is. Control K space. It's part of the, so anyone that is currently watching this also have it. Control K space. If you don't have it, it's because you haven't been paying attention and installed the Extensibility Essentials. Because when we write extensions, we use GUIDs quite often.
Yep. You use them up.
DTE. I wonder if there's something on the document. Sometimes there's things that are called object that hang off of various things, and that object can be cast to different things. Different from active document. Here, object. So I'm wondering if you can cast active object as yeah, I don't know. And that could actually also be the editor dot get active text document. That thing. Can I see what it looks like? No. So if it's not that, what could it be? Yeah, sorry. That's all I can tell you. Like if you can cast some of these things, but you would have to look at it, search on GitHub for some of this, I think. Sorry.
Is there a so the in the community, like there's a discussion going on, right? Is that a question to ask in the extension community discussion area that somebody might know?
That would be, yeah, gitter.im/Microsoft/extend I believe. So head on over here. This is a really good place to ask questions. Oh, there you go. It's me trying to zoom and just completely failing at that. There we go. I will just say, since I'm executing a command like this way, this is a really bad way of doing it. This is a bad way of executing any command. This is not a command that does bad things if it's not available, but it's not a safe way of doing it. So a safer way of executing this particular command would be, or any command would be, commands item and I believe something like this. So we can say command equals that. And then we can say if command is available. And I think we can even go so far as say if command, we do it like this. So we have to say if command is not null and it is available, then we can say DT.execute command. And so it takes a command name, but we can also do it this way. Command.raise. No, it's commands.raise, command.good, command.id, and you can just do null here, like that. So that's a way to do it in a safer way, right? We check for whether it exists and if it's available in this context. So this is kind of playing it safer, if that makes sense. So don't do this unless this is in here. Maybe I should add that to the DTE as an extension method. Execute command safe. Should we do it that way?
That seems good because it's kind of boilerplate, right? It's just,
yeah. So add extension method to do this safe. I'm just keeping notes. Yep. All right. So I think that was the demo of today. Do we have any specific questions about the code that we've been doing? Oh, Cynthia says try execute command and then return a Boolean if it's like, if it did that correctly. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
that's nice.
That's exactly how it should. Let me just type that down.
Well, Kevin's a fan.
Okay.
The best session ever.
All right.
This is really interesting though, seeing the kind of different ways and like it's funny just taking something as simple as inserting a GUID and trying just a bunch of different approaches and seeing what breaks and stuff. So
Right.
let me see. Let me see. Could I use this stuff to implement something like a sharper after value right .var? Press tab in the extension. I'm not sure I'm following.
Yes, you could. So what you need to do is you need to have a command that listens to the tab event. And then when you tap, you go and you say, okay, where's the caret right now in the text buffer? And you'd say, what is before it? And it said var, let's say, right? Oh, okay, I know what to do there. So you basically take over the tab event, and then you apply your logic to expand it into a snippet or whatever it is, a live template or whatever they call it. And so you can do that. So what I didn't show for you to do this is how to have a command handler for the char. So there is, if you go back and look for how to do editor commands, there's a previous show from last year on how we do that. And so that basically allows you to take over that the type char command argument, and then you can apply your own logic, and then you can party on the text buffer. Yep.
One just follow up from Kevin. This is interesting. He's trying to drive Visual Studio by voice. There are some extensions and things for extensibility with Visual Studio, right? I've seen some things over the years.
Yeah, I have an older extension. We actually had an episode where we kind of modernized it. What's it called? Visual Studio voice control or voice? Yeah. But I'm trying to drive VS by voice, so I need to get at the text buffer. Why do you need to be outside VS for that? Why not just have an extension that lives inside Visual Studio that you can use to drive by voice? The one I have allows you to execute commands by voice. And it's called, I forget what it's called, like
voice commands.
Voice commands. I should have known. It's the most boring. It's the most boring thing I can think of is usually the names of my extensions. Yeah, voice commands.
Very cool.
So when we go through this and we come up with like these ideas for things that we think should be in the Visual Studio SDK, what we're going to do is that we're going to try to make them into the toolkit. So if you don't know what the toolkit is, it's sort of it's a wrapper library that wraps the Visual Studio SDK to make it easier to use. And these are things like extension methods, helper methods, and classes. All this sort of stuff is something we want to get in there. And what the Visual Studio architect has said is that he's actually allocated 2 people to help with the toolkit, such that the ideas that come into the toolkit is brought back to Visual Studio for the new Extensibility API that they're currently under development, but will take years to complete. So everything that we think is a good thing, anything that makes it into the toolkit, is there for a reason that solves a problem. But even something like naming and how it works and is all something that they are paying close attention to. And so now we have 2 things here, like create an iDisposable wrapper for the undo context. And the other one is see if we can do the try execute command. Like that's exactly the type of stuff we want to put in the toolkit. It's exactly the type of stuff that by moving it into the toolkit, we communicate with the Visual Studio team to replicate that when they come out with the new, as they're building the new API. So please keep this coming and go to the Community Visual Studio Toolkit repo. It's github.com/v6community. You'll see several repos there. Make sure you go there, and we want all your suggestions, like what would make your life easier, whether it's in templates, if it's in the API, whatever it is, because ultimately we all want this to be sort of the default inside the Visual Studio SDKs and behaviors and whatnot, right? So.
Cool.
Okay, I don't even know what time-wise. Where are we?
Yeah, it's 3:40. It's actually,
oh dear,
it's gone kind of long, I think, right?
Yeah, last time we were close to 2 hours, and that was the longest we've done so far. But let's see, are there any
well,
comments?
There was one. Just, I mean, it's already been answered in the thing, but the ligature you're using.
Oh yeah, I'm using the Cascadia code.
So this is just the not equals, and then the ligature converts it to display like that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that non equals is not a character.
Yeah.
It's a visual representation of the exclamation mark and the equal sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. It looked like about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, people are probably they want to have a nice weekend now, and I mean they're probably dropping off anyway. We're not doing anything interesting right now, so let's just call it, John.
That sounds good. So and then you're off for the next 2 weeks because of build stuff, right? So
yeah, does that fits with the next 2 Fridays, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means we're back on. That's
Would it
Friday
be-
the 27th. Is then that's the.
So the 28th, I think, is still build, and then the following week would be June 4th.
So that's probably when we're going to be back. Yep.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Excellent.
Well, I guess it's time to play the music and wave goodbye, right?
Yes. Hopefully, I'll see you all again on June 4th. And yeah, have a great weekend, everyone. And you too, John.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.